Hey everyone, it's tuning in to watch Friday Night Live. Unfortunately, Trent's not going to be here tonight because he's going to watch his little girl sing in a show thing. So it's just me and Bill tonight. So it's going to be a short episode. So it's going to be me talking about crap, Bill talking about bullshit. So, but have you finished printing or no? You still have more printing?
No, you're saving it all for
There's going to be more printing coming, but only like a minute or so. You've done most of it, haven't you?
Yeah. This is the last bit.
So Bill's going to talk tonight about 303s for something different, and then I'm going to talk about some of the builds that I did for this bloke, and also the new delivery of the Adlers that we've had, and the Verdi Cameron Veloz, and that's pretty much it. And then we're all going to go home over the weekend. So there was going to be a Wafter AGM on tomorrow. I'm going to send an email out saying that that it's actually been cancelled, which is unfortunate, but it's going to be delayed. And then, yeah. Otherwise, I'm going to have a pretty standard weekend. I'm working tomorrow with Trent, by the way. But anyway, I'll pass you over to Bill because it's pretty much 5:30. I'll pass you over to Bill for his episode of Old Shit. So, what are we talking about tonight, Bill?
A couple of little interesting things that
No, they're not. You can't start off with them like that.
They are.
What have all these got in common?
they're all Lee Enfields.
That's not a Lee action.
It's a number 4 Lee Enfield.
Yeah, but that's not the Lee action.
Not the original Lee action, no. It's the modified Lee action that is stronger and simpler to make and required about 50 less gauges and tools to actually make. And it ended up a lot stronger because eventually it was converted, these actions were converted to 308. This one, just to give you an idea,
I'm going to go and grab the phone.
is actually in 303.25. This is what I want to talk about tonight. The calibre conversions that were done to these actions over the last 130, 40 years is quite astounding. In the 50s and 60s, 303.25s were the go-to rifle for kangaroo shooters. The rifles were cheap.
Good evening, everyone that's logging in. Hey Neil, hey David.
The rifles as surplus weapons were pretty cheap. The conversions were easy. Sportco were making barrels for them. Lots and lots of gunsmiths, both here in WA and especially in the eastern states, were converting them to 303.25 because there was heaps of ammo available. And one of the tricky things they did with ammunition was they'd buy huge amounts of surplus 303 ammo, pull the projectiles, put them through a machine that resized the neck down to 25 calibre and put a 25 calibre projectile in it.
What did they do with the powder though?
Nothing. They just continued. Everything was the same.
So it was the same load for 303.25 as it was for...
That's why they were such a high performer. They were shooting an 87 grain bullet instead of a 170 grain bullet with the same amount of grunt behind them.
How fast were they going?
There's a bit of contention about that, but about 3,000 feet per second.
Right.
Yeah. So they were pretty good performer, and that's why they were popular with kangaroo shooters. 87 grain bullets. Super were making projectiles in those days, and various other local manufacturers were making projectiles because Australia was pretty poor in those days. We couldn't import a lot of American stuff because we owed the Yanks so much after the war, and there was a little bit of British firearms coming into Australia, but the Brits didn't make a lot in the way of centerfire rifles. The BSA were making some. And
why'd we owe the Yanks so much?
Because they helped us so much. They'd given us so much in Lend-Lease and aircraft and especially, and shipping, product, ammunition. Winchester, Remington, everyone was making ammo for 303s, and so we were deeply indebted to them, and to England and Great Britain as well. I can remember my mum saying that, and I've seen the ration books that she was still using in 1952. Most of our butter that we produced in Australia was going to England to try and pay off our war debt. There's an interesting sporting rifle in 30325 on an old number 4 action. A bit more modern when they came about, still number 4 action. Lots and lots of them were converted to 308 when Australia adopted the SLR and the 308 or 7.62 by 51 round. A lot of the rifle shooters went to that because it was a military round then, and a lot of old number 4s were converted to 308, and they almost always had a little proof mark there. They were proof to
crack tested or whatever they call it.
And crack tested
what's the stamp? CAS or something?
Pardon?
What's the stamp? CAS or something?
CAS in a circle, yeah.
Yeah. So that's a 303 that's been converted to 308.
Yeah, that's
but it's a number 4.
It's a number 4, yeah.
Would you convert a number 1 Mark III?
No, you wouldn't, because the number 4 is much stronger in the walls. Because they're rear locking, the force is taken in this area of the action between the back and the case.
Well, there's not much steel on this side of the action.
No, there's not, and there's even less on a number 1, and there's less on a number 1 here on this side. These are relatively very strong. You know, that wall there. Yeah, I know it could happen. I haven't seen a number 4 action destroyed from overloads. I've seen number 1 Mark IIIs destroyed from overloads though. Here's another rather interesting example. This rifle started life as a number 5 jungle carbine. It's all correct. It hasn't in the action area. It hasn't got the original jungle carbine rear stock on it. It's been made into a sort of a sporting rifle. What's happened is someone's put a number 4 barrel in it. It's still in 303. So they put a number 4 barrel in it, put the original flash eliminator front side assembly on, and it's got the original 800 up to 800 yards Singer sight on it, click adjustable, and it's still in 303. So someone, whether it was used on the range as a range rifle or not, I don't know, but it's just a bit of an oddity in that someone has probably tried to make it shoot better by putting a longer barrel in it and better rear stock.
Elijah, most of these are in Bill's collection, but if anyone who knows Bill knows it's a price for everything. So.
And now, last but not least, we've got a very interesting little rifle here. It's built on, funnily enough, this action is an old Lee Enfield rifle action. Was made in 303. A Lee Enfield Mark 1 Star. I've only been able to identify it as that by looking it up in Ian Skennerton's book and seeing the characteristics of how it was made and what it was made, how it was made, and what features it's got on it, because it's absolutely got nothing on it to indicate who made it, where it might have been, or anything like that.
Or even the age, or
the age of it. So as being made as a Enfield Mark 1 Star, it was made around about 1890. It's the original. Oh, I can't get it out. It's the original.
You got it out before? Yeah, there you go.
The original 8-shot single stack magazine, which was the first.
Up a bit. Hold it up a bit.
It was the first of the magazine styles that the British used in their Lee Enfields. They quickly changed to a double stack 10-shot magazine.
Not that it's useful, because this is in 22.
Yeah, but the other interesting part about it is it looks like when it came to Australia, it was probably sold as a commercial rifle in 303 originally, but it's obviously come to Australia, and someone's converted it to 22 long rifle. It's got they slimmed down all the woodwork on it. The fore end has been slimmed down and made it into a sporterised stock. The rear stock has been slimmed right down. It's had a butt plate put on it, which is marked Brewer, Australia. So it would seem that this conversion to 22 LR was done here in Australia. The barrel is 22 number 2 Mark 4 barrel, it's called, made at Lithgow. So that's another indication that it was all, the conversion to 22 was done here at Lithgow.
I mean,
done here in Australia.
That back sight's got a maker's mark on it.
Yeah, the back sight's got the maker's marks on them. Orange and Wellington and Bathurst made all the parts for the back sight. So it would seem that this is an Australian conversion. Originally it would have had a cut-off in here, and that makes matches up with a Mark 1 Medford. The Mark 1's Medford with star had no safety catch whatsoever, so there was no cuts in the striker for the safety to engage. So that's another indication that it was a Medford. Oh, by the way, it's matching bolt and serial number to the action. So
it's actually quite. It's quite. Obviously, the modifications were probably done in what, the 50s to 22.
Most likely, yeah.
But it's still relatively period. You know, it's an original, because we know it's the original stock, because it would have had it's been blanked off where the sight, where the volley sight would have been.
Sight was, and where the
clearing rod.
And
it's got the cutout for the magazine cut off, where your finger is.
The slot for the magazine cut off. It's got the thumb area relieved there. It's quite a nice little gun that's been made up. It's really operates as only a single shot, but all the same, it would be a handy little rifle if someone wanted something. And it's about 130 years old, this part of it. The barrel actually is marked 1946. So sometime in the 50s or 60s maybe this was done. It's just a nice little piece that we're lucky enough to have come our way, and it's got a slightly round bottom. So
you need a double stack mag to stand it up.
Yeah, yeah, it won't stand up on the magazine like all the others do. So the that model of rifle was a candidate for 22 conversion, one of the first conversions that the British did, but they made it in a long version. The barrel was
29 inches or whatever.
Oh no, I beg your pardon, the barrel was made as a short rifle, 25.2 inches, so it's been converted mechanically fairly reasonably close to the original conversions, but the woodwork has been done very nicely.
Because the thing that spun me out is that all the work that's done on the bolt to get the firing pin off center, yeah? So I can't take it apart because that screw in the 303s actually holds the bolt head in.
Yeah, which is the early version.
Yeah.
The later ones, the bolt head's threaded in.
Yeah. But what they've done is, they must have in the 50s, or whenever they did the conversion, they've actually machined out the bolt, the original bolt head, bored it out and sleeved it, but they've done such a good job of it, it's barely visible. Like, you can barely see, you can see where it would be, but it's not, there's no obvious solder lines or thread joins or anything like that. Like, it's really well done. But the only stampings that we could find were little inspection, like crowns and that sort of stuff, inspection marks where whoever was making it has made the bolt head and then they put their stamp on it, you know, to say that they've done it. And there's a few of those stamps, but there's no manufacturer's markings or dates or anything like that.
That's right. So originally it would have been sold onto the commercial market.
Yeah.
And possibly, you know, possibly into Africa or more likely into Australia. But it seems strange that there's no acceptance marks on it, no military corporation has owned it at all, ever. Otherwise there would be ownership marks on it. And there's not a mark on it anywhere.
It's a very interesting piece of history.
Yeah.
For those people that are interested in 303.
Yeah, well, that's right. For people who are interested in these sort of rifles.
Have you got a number 5 barrel?
No, I haven't, but you can
yeah.
convert these to number 5 by just shortening them.
Because that would be more. I mean, that barrel is not a number 5 barrel.
No, that's right.
So still.
Certainly now a number 4. And the jungle carbines were renowned for a wandering zero. You know, you could zero it one day, be right, put it away, go and shoot it again. You know, a week later, and the down thing's shooting to a different zero. And there was a lot of work done in field workshops as well as back at Enfield to try and, or in BSA as well, to try and get them to shoot well, and it was never resolved. And I know in Malaya, in one of the workshops there, they fitted number 4 barrels to them, and then they fitted number 4 actions to them, and there was still this anomaly. They could never be sure that they'd fixed them, because
Well, then what was left on it was from number 5, the wood.
woodwork. Yeah, that's about it.
So what you need is you need a full wood number 5. That'd fix it. There you go, Enfield. Fixed your problem.
Solved your problem.
This one's got 13th of May 1991 scratched into the side of it as well.
Yeah.
Like relatively well done, but
yeah, reasonably well done. And that's the 303 number 5.
yeah.
Still. An interesting point about the 303-25 conversions, in the 50s and in the 60s even, I was buying the shooting magazines that were available then. I think it was Sporting Shooter, and you could buy number 1 Mark IIIs that were converted to 303-25, 303-270, 303-243, 22 Hornet, a variety of 303 based 22 calibers. There was the Falcon, which was a little short case, the 303 case that had been shortened down and then turned into a 22. And I can't remember the other ones, but then there was a full size case that shot a 22 caliber, which was as good as a 22-250, of course. Right.
Isn't one of these not in 303?
Oh, beg your pardon. Yes, this is the one. Which is the one?
The number 5, isn't it?
Yes, it is. The number 5. This is another interesting part about this. It isn't in 303 anymore. Sorry. This is in 7.7 by 54. Now that's a caliber cartridge unique to Australia, and in a few years ago in the 1960s that was unique to New South Wales, because in New South Wales you weren't allowed to own a military caliber rifle. You certainly weren't allowed to own a 303 apparently, and it was a bit of a nuisance to people in New South Wales who wanted a high-powered rifle, because there was hundreds of these 303s surplus on the market.
We discussed this and no one really knows why they put that restriction in place.
I haven't been able to find out why that restriction was on, but I just remember reading that you couldn't buy a military caliber rifle in New South Wales. So all these smart gunsmiths got their scratching their heads and said, well, what if we make it so that 303 cartridge won't fit in it? So what they did, they used to pull the barrels, turn the shoulder back and turn the face off, screw the barrel back in, and so now you had a short chamber, and then they would run a 7.7 by 54 reamer into them just to clean them up, and away you went. You had to make your own ammunition though. I never heard of any 7.7 by 54 ammo being made commercially. But
what if you just You could probably just get a body die and just run your 303 round through a body die, and it just push the shoulder back a little bit, so it'll go. So the gun won't chamber 303, but you can get 303 rounds to fit.
Yeah. But it was just another variation that you were obliged to have in New South Wales if you wanted a Lee Enfield. So, and I'd be interested if anyone is out there who knows any more about that, whether it was a regulation or it was actually law or whatever, and whether it affected any of the other military calibres. But I just saw it written in an article years ago that mentioned military calibres when it was talking about 7.7 by 54. I think if I remember rightly, it shortens the chamber by about 2 millimetres. So,
what's the pitch? What's the thread pitch? 12?
14. 7, 8, 14. No, 1 inch 14, is it? Yeah, it's 1 inch 14, which is no longer used.
Yeah.
Because they're now 1 inch 12.
So 14 TPI.
Yeah.
Which is what, 70 something thou?
Yeah, so 78,000 2 mil.
Yeah, without. Oh, I'm fucked now without a calculator. Yeah. Catch you later, Ross.
See you later, Ross.
Yeah, 71.4 thou.
Yeah, so it shortens it by almost 2 millimetres. Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying, is they probably just moved it one ring.
Yeah, they would have done.
And so it was 1.81 millimetres shorter.
Yeah. And it could well be, I'm not sure, but it would have been a smart idea to make a die that just pushed the shoulder back, and maybe you would end up with a longer neck, so you might have had to put a reamer in there to lengthen the neck slightly on the shortened chamber.
Yeah. Nick Holtz is saying that you wouldn't have been allowed a 303 south of the 26 parallel in the 60s.
Here in WA, yeah.
Why is that?
Because up there you could shoot brumbies and so on. Yeah.
But if you were down here, they wouldn't let you have one, or?
Yeah, that's quite. There was also a tax line, the 26 parallel. If you were above the tax line, even when I was working in Port Hedland in '71, you paid less tax in Port Hedland than you did in Perth.
Why?
I'm encouraging people to go and work in the north.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I remember that. That was the funny thing. The only time I paid less tax to the government than I should have done, perhaps.
Yeah.
But yeah. Yeah, that would be right too, Nick. You're dead right. But,
all right, cool.
But yeah, there's just some interesting variations. We keep seeing these things, coming up with these things.
No longer allowed 300 Norma anywhere in WA. Well, no, they won't give you a licence for one anyway, Alan. There's people with them out there, even though the police claim that no one's got one licensed.
Yeah, because they've probably got them listed on their website as 308s.
Oh, I don't know.
30 calibre or whatever. Some other bloody
Yeah.
bland and bloody description of the calibre.
Yeah.
But anyway,
cool.
There you go, folks.
Right. And so what are you going to have next week? You're going to have a different 303s with different bits of wood attached.
Oh, I'll find something 303, no doubt.
Yeah, okay. This 303 went to the Pacific campaign, whereas this one went to the African campaign. You can see the different coloured dirt in barrel channels.
The barrel channel.
Yeah. But different shaped helmet mark on the butt where it clearly clubbed fuck out of someone.
But that's the good thing about 303s. Lee Enfields, you can quite often trace the history of them, because of the markings on them. You know, who owned them, and so on. Whereas,
and that's the thing. On the face of it, I don't really have that much love for these things. And I know there's people can say, "Oh, it's unpatriotic and shit." But it's not. It's not a really nice gun. You know what I'm saying?
Of course it is.
It's not until you pick them up and you start looking at the at the stamps and the numbers and all that sort of stuff, and start looking into the history, not the history of 303s in general, but the history of the gun, the example that's in front of you,
that's right.
that it really starts to be of interest.
Well, I reckon Bill should make us a platypus. Just an absolute bullshit 303 that didn't exist. I'd start with a martini action and put another 5 barrel on it.
He probably could, but
And
wouldn't be able to
but-
put it on the internet, because there'd be so many fucking people out there, oh, that's not correct for that period.
Well, I reckon you should do that for this show. That'd be hilarious. And no one would know until, you know...
Someone
The
will
week
pick it up
after.
sooner or later.
Yeah, we should. No, what you should do is you should get a 303 and then turn it into like Bill's hunting rifle. Yeah, so you could turn it into a 303, like a
6.5 Creedmoor.
6.5 Creedmoor number 4 with a fucking like a telescopic butt and shit and fucking ventilated forend and fucking night vision scopes.
Well, these are ventilated already. See, they got little grooves cut under the barrel.
That's so the big top would clip, I reckon.
Well, I remember there was a really cool one I saw on Forgotten Weapons a couple of years ago. It was a martini action with a smelly barrel and forend.
Yeah,
And it looks really, really interesting. Like, we didn't know what it was. I reckon it was just a joke
Yeah.
that someone had made up, and you know the joke was lost to time. But I reckon you should do one of those, Bill.
Yeah. Alright, so this is a Weatherby Vanguard that we built for Ross. So this was actually gifted to Ross for a bit of a bonus. So we posted a picture of this up during the week. We've got a lot of questions about pricing and all that sort of stuff, which I don't have, unfortunately. But I can run through some rough pricing for you to give you an idea what a build like this would sort of cost. Now, it's a Weatherby Vanguard action, so that's the parent thing that he started with. And Weatherby Vanguard Hauer and Weatherby Vanguard action start, about $1,000, just over $1,000, depending on where you want to, start from. He's got a TSC barrel in it, so that's an aftermarket 30-inch barrel, which is probably a bit long for 6.5 Creedmoor. Well, we had a discussion about it, and I said just leave it full length. We can always cut it down. You can't get a short barrel and make it longer. So we might cut it down later, but it's actually, like, for what he wants to do with it, it's fine. I had threaded already for a muzzle brake, but I haven't made the muzzle brake yet, because he said he wanted one design muzzle brake, and I went, you're not getting that. You're getting what you get. And I had an idea of like a reciprocating muzzle brake that said when you fired it, the whole muzzle brake moved forward and revealed the ports in it and poured the gas out, and then under spring pressure shut afterwards. So if you shut it really fast, it'd be like a reciprocating dildo. But yeah, so but the barrels are around about $1,000 fitted. Yeah, that's for the barrel chambered, fitted, not including finishing. Now he hasn't decided whether he wants it blued or whether he wants it Cerakoted. I think he'll get it Cerakoted, probably a grey, like a dark grey, just to sort of break it up, because too much black just looks stupid.
And they're dangerous.
Oh yeah, fucking dangerous. But this is the ESS chassis, which is a lot of interest in that. I think they're about $1,800 or something like that. Yeah, for something like this with the full forend and everything. And MDT obviously make the higher Picatinny rails to suit their forends as well. So if you've got the Weatherby action, you can get a MDT pick rail, so this sits flat on the top. Yeah, so you got your scope and your night vision and that sort of stuff on there. These are the new magazines from MDT, which have got the window in them, so you can actually see when it's got rounds in it. So that's what that is. But I suppose if it's only got like 3 or 4 rounds, you won't be able to see it. I don't even see what the sense of that is, but there's steel at the top, all steel lips, but plastic body, which I reckon that's a really good idea. So they don't rattle around as much, but the lips are a bit stronger for feeding, correct feeding and that sort of stuff. So that's most of the rifle, yeah. So obviously you have to raise the cheek piece up quite high, because you've got this high rail, and if you've got a big scope on it, the cheek piece will have to get up nice and high. I imagine it'll be high enough. That's as high as it'll go, pretty much. I imagine that'll be high enough, but I'll keep an eye on that too. I'll be interested to find out whether you may not be able to raise the cheek piece high enough to actually use this stock. But then we could just extend these pieces.
I was going to say, if we can remove that, we can make long ones. Surely.
Oh no, you know what you would do? you'll just make a spacer because they're on a plate.
Oh yeah.
So you
put a spacer
undo those two screws, take that off,
Oh, yeah.
and then just make a spacer that screws onto.
That's an idea of something we could do.
Piece of
Yeah,
plastic.
Let us know if you want one,
picked
guys.
it up.
Fuck off. You fucking think of it.
I knew that all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is Ross's toy. So if you want to have a look at it when you come in, just sing out. Ross will pull it out for you. He loves whipping out his toy for people. And that's his little cheapy bipod that he bought online. So it's not an actual proper Atlas or whatever. It's a rip-off. It's a rip-off of something. He bought one online for bugger all. So that's what that is. Yeah, so that's that build. The other build that I posted up, which is the 338 Laporte, is just getting finished off, putting some more rails and stuff on it. And if it's still here next week, I will pull it out. But I think he's going to pick it up middle of next week. I think it's going to get picked up. So it may not make it to Friday Night Live next week. So thanks to Mel, just gave sing out and say that she's actually taken her husband out for dinner because it's his birthday. And so he won't be watching Friday Night Live.
Dave's getting older.
Yeah, she's taking him up to Kings Park with a Chico roll for his birthday.
Chico rolled a bottle of water.
Yeah, that's it. All right. And then the last thing I wanted to say is that we do have B220s and 230s in stock finally. So a lot of people have been waiting a long time for this. We've had our order come through, and so we've got the all-weather, the B220 pistol grip, which is this one, and the tactical one back in stock. The tactical one's the one with the tactical magazine system. I've got one aside for me too because we're going to play with it. We've also found a box of adapters which I made, which I'm going to have to modify because they're slightly different on the straight pulls. I'll have to modify the adapter slightly, but it'll adapt it to not a collapsible style mag pull style stock, but a straight stock, not a curved down one. So I've got a box of them as well. But the other thing that I found was some of the magazine tubes that we made. So we were making these back when you could have them for the levers and for the straight pulls that we were doing. We're making magazine tubes, and so
Extended mag tube.
extended mag tube.
That's a 9-shot.
So I found a box full of mag tubes, which are most of the way through. Like they've been cut and turned and everything. They seem to be threaded and fitted. So I've got a heap of them, and I've got a heap of really long ones, which aren't really much use unless you've got a long barrel.
28-inch barrel.
Yeah, and the B220s only come with a 20-inch barrel, and the 230s only come with a 20-inch barrel. But Ross said that the Adler A110 barrels, which come in 28-inch, which is what that is, fit into the straight pulls. That's what he said.
Yeah.
Well, because they look different, yeah? So this is the... I'll just pull one of those apart.
And we'll never get it back together again.
No. Yeah, so that just comes out like that. So if you have a look, these are actually different. Can you see there's two prongs on the B220 barrel? But there's only one on the Adler A110. So the one on the side is in the same space, in the same place. And the B220s have got more machined away on this side, so you can turn them into a left hand.
Right.
And that's probably why they put that one on top. But Ross reckons you can put one of these in the straight pull. So no, I ain't doing it.
Right.
I want to see if I can get it on there. So the 4-end fits on the same, and I knew that would be the same. But then will it fit down into the action, and will it lock up? So that fits down into there.
What?
So it fits in there, but will it move around? Well, obviously you can't turn it. I won't, because this one's left-handed. Yeah.
I was wondering if that would be the case.
Yeah, if you put that on the right hand side, the cocking lever on the right hand side, that would work probably. Yeah, because these have got a notch in this wall.
Do you reckon we can cut the
Put your finger in there.
My thumb's about to get crushed. Whoa!
Do you reckon we can cut that extra notch into the longer barrel?
I don't know.
If you wanted to
I
have.
probably could. I'd have to have a look at it. There you go. So the barrel's tight in there. It's locked up. It's
As
not.
long as the headspace is correct.
Yeah, we'd have to measure headspace. All right.
So you can have a 28
Cut and fit it in the
You know,
frame.
So we've got a couple of barrels here
Got a few.
of the 28. So we could get your B220, convert it to 28 inch, and then put a 10 round mag in it.
9 round.
Is that 9 or?
Yeah, they're only 9. They only hold 9.
Well, it depends on if you've got those springs there. I think sometimes they hold 10.
It's so long we can't even fit it in the frame.
We could go like 12 round. We could put one of them in there. So, yeah, I mean, even if you just want the 7 round or the 8 round or whatever it is, we've got them there as well. So they're $350 fitted. But we've got shotguns and we've got magazines.
Yeah.
But I'm still going to work on that double stack, 25 round 12 gauge double stack mag for the other one. And the other one that we we're talking about just before is that these have all got the spring mechanism in them from the semi-autos, but obviously they're not in semi-auto. But could we make them blow open and lock open? And then you have to push a button on them like a, and then you have to push a button on them to shut them up, you know? So bang, and then bang. So they're like the Verni Karen. But I'm going to look into it. But the other thing is that we do have Verni Karen Velocers on their way here right now. We've got 3 on their way. But yes, they're all sold.
No, there's 5 coming.
No, they only had 3.
Did they? I
Four.
thought you said we had a spare one.
No, we ordered 5.
Oh, okay.
If we had 5, we would have a spare one. But they've only allocated us 3 out of this order.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, they're all sold already. But the good news is that we can get them, and the proof will be in the pudding. They'll be here next week. You know, but you know, they're going to be relatively expensive. So maybe there's still a market for lever release Adler conversions
If we can make them work. Yeah.
Well, the thing is, we'll have to make it work, but we have to make it so people can't fucking turn them semi-auto, because that'll screw it. Like if we start converting them, and some cockhead gets in there, stuffs around with it, makes it semi-auto, that'll just kill it for everyone. They'll be banned, you know. So we have to take what we can get. So if we can turn them into a lever release, though, I think that'd be pretty popular. I think that's what the market had asked for, something like that. Because they're a pretty cheap shotgun. I mean, even if after all our conversion, because obviously our time's worth significantly. You know, relatively our time's worth, you know, a lot for the price of the gun, but even if it doubled the price, people would still buy them. Well, let us know in the comments. Put it in the comments. Would you like to see us convert one of these into a lever release? Because it's going to take both of us, because I'm not smart enough on my own. I need a little need a little bit of help from you. A bit of old school gunsmithing to do it. I'm the ideas man, but I just it's good. Someone's got to put it into practice.
Oh, you know? Okay.
Yeah, right. So, but if we can do that, we can do that. But in the meantime, we've still got magazines and we've got buttstock adapters, which are also I think $350 or something. I don't know. I don't set the pricing. I just do the work. So.
And yes, Dave, that they are available with rifled barrels, both the A110 and the B220.
Yeah, they are available now with rifle barrels.
I think it's a 22-inch barrel.
Yeah, they're coming out with 22-inch rifle barrels. So you can shoot non-rifled slugs.
Yeah.
Throw
solids.
Which would be magic on pigs. Be interesting to get one and see how it's shot. At 300 metres.
Take it a long range course.
Yeah. You just got to get it.
You just about to see it go.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you would, because it would be you would see it out there.
Yeah.
You know, do they still fire them through a? No, they wouldn't fire them through a what?
I was going to say, if it had a saber, we could put a little bit of phosphorus in there.
Some makes have a wad carries them out.
And the wad is what spins in the barrel.
Yeah, but then some of the projectile is got rifling cut on the outside of it.
Yeah, some are rifle sides, and
So
you don't need a rifle barrel.
No, that's right. Yeah, but it'd be interesting to see how accurate they are in relation to one another. Where the shot out of a rifle barrel, they're much more accurate than a rifle slug that's just shot out of a smoothbore.
Does that mean we're going to have to start up a YouTube channel to compete with Tauflader Mouse? With all those shotgun slugs? Oh, they like to experiment with shotgun slugs.
Oh yeah, they made shotgun slugs out of magnets and shit.
Yeah, and they shoot marbles and they get people to machine them different reusable slugs all over the world.
Yeah, because they machined one up that was like a big air rifle pellet.
Yeah, I like that one.
Shooting, I remember saying that actually, yeah. And I was saying how it worked,
Yeah.
how it functioned.
With a skirt on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it worked pretty well, I think.
It's a good channel, actually.
But a lot of shit tumbles in the air.
Yeah.
They made one which had like bowls, like had two balls with a fucking bit of string between them. Shit like
Well,
that.
Remington.
But they just followed each other one behind the other.
Remington used to do that, make a nine pellet shot,
Yeah.
and they were all cast on a little wire rod.
Oh, right.
So when they come out, they didn't separate too far.
So you didn't need a choke on it.
No.
So you had to hang together anyway.
Yeah. Oh,
Or they'd all just fuck off into the wide blue yonder. I was going to ask
Just
you
like-
about Remington. Didn't they make 303s at one stage?
sorry.
I was going to ask you. Didn't you read somewhere that Remington made 303s at one stage?
Yeah, I forgot to mention it when I was talking about them before. That the more things change, the more they stay the same. In 1885, Remington made the first 500 Lee rifles.
Yeah, it was the Lee Remington, wasn't it? It was.
Yeah.
Was it that one in 6mm? Or was it in 30-40?
Yeah.
Because I know the Navy had one.
They made the model that Remington made the 500 of for trials were actually in 43 Spanish.
That's
But the interesting part about it is, and it's in this book, the 1885 model was produced during E. Remington and Sons being in receivership.
So they were broke in the 1885.
And
They've had 140 years to turn the company around and they fucking haven't done it.
Unbelievable. It just shows you though, the name has lived on, but it seems like they've still got the same managers, would seem.
Well, the same type of
Yeah, I know. Oh god. Yeah, that was a little piece that I just happened to pick out when I was looking for the info on those early rifles.
You swap those barrels over for me. Alright, cool. So it's going to be me and Trent tomorrow, like I said before. Standard opening hours because the Waffer AGM's been cancelled. I better write an email before I go home. So. It's one of those guns you got to hold your tongue like.
You certainly do. There we go, got it.
First try.
Right?
First try. What's the saying from the thing? 60% of the time they go together every time.
Yeah. Yeah.
I really want to get that Savage that we had Cerakoted out. Show 'em
Yeah,
that.
not tonight.
Yeah.
Not tonight.
I took a bunch of photos yesterday. We'll put those on Facebook next week.
Cool. That one's sold.
Okay, sold right. There you go. Put it back.
Alright, that's the end of it. Thanks very much guys for tuning in. We'll see you again next week. And sorry for last week when my battery went down on my phone. I'll try and not let that happen again. Alright, thank you.